turns out that not every exciting new car that's launched in 2021 is powered by electricity. No, some of them still have one of those funny little old engines powered by lots of little explosions. And this one, it even does pops and bangs. Welcome back to Top Gear Testing, and welcome to the new Hyundai i20N. What is it? It's the difficult second album from Hyundai's N division after the brilliant i30N. That's the family-sized hot hatch. It's based on Hyundai's i20 Super Mini, as driven by your grandparents, but they've saturated it with attitude and technology to help it drive, as well as the Ford Fiesta ST, because that is as good as small fast cars get right now. What does it look like? It's like a Hot Wheels toy that's been sketched by a particularly angry anime cartoonist. Look, it's all zigzagging furious lines and the wheels got these chunks missing out of it for some reason. And check out the size of the wing. It's enormous. This is hot hatch design that is unapologetic and leery. It's a Super Mini Gangnam style. What's the engine? Refreshingly simple, really. 1.6 litres, 4 cylinders, 1 turbocharger driving the front wheels for a 6-speed manual gearbox. There is a front differential to help wrestle that power to the road, but no hybrid boost, no all-wheel drive, no drift mode. You even get an old-fashioned handbrake. This car keeps the mechanicals simple, but really goes to town on the tech. Will I get along with the tech? Well, if you're talking just turning the volume up and down or mucking about with the heating, couldn't be simpler because look, we've still got proper buttons for it. Unfortunately, everything else lives in this 10-inch touchscreen, which is responsive and it looks cool, but it is a bit fiddly and it could really do with a home button, actually, to get you back to the main menu. We are in a hot hatch after all, and stiff suspension and fiddly touchscreens are not best friends. What's the gimmick? Oh, I thought you'd never ask. There is so much to play with in the i20N. Look at my N menu here with my brake pressure, my throttle, everything about my lap times, my revs, and then if we swipe over, this is where you set up your N custom settings. This is crucial. 3 settings for your engine angriness, how on you want the traction control, whether or not you want to see your Gs, it to match your revs for you, and then you can save all that onto the N buttons. How roomy is it? Well, you can fit a grown-up in the back seats. The boot's pretty generous for a town car. The seats fold down easily, which is just what you want in a hot hatch because you can hear your exhaust burbling all the time. So pretty good on the whole. It's just a shame it is so dark and dingy back here. How fast is it? Right then, time for some acceleration. Hyundai claims 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds for this car and a top speed of 143 miles an hour, which we're not going to get to because our straight isn't long enough, but I am going to give you 0 to 60, 0 to 100 and a quarter mile time, and the car is going to help me because up here we do have launch control, which I can activate now. It'll even let me dial in or choose the revs that it holds the engine at, but Hyundai's default is 3000 RPM, and let's trust them. So, into first gear, good start. Handbrake off, that's definitely off. The rest is kind of up to me. Here we go. Build up the revs, holding it at 3000. Off we go. Oh, it's always so brutal launching a front wheel drive car. It wants to lose traction as the weight comes off the front wheels, but we're cleanly into third. That's the slightly tricky one. And 85 miles an hour, taking fourth. Indicated 95, come on, give me 100. There it is, we're just going to run past 100, make sure we've got the time. Well, it's still pulling really fast. The Hyundai i20N managed to just beat its claimed 0 to 60 time, getting there in 6.4 seconds. But it then took another 10 seconds to reach 100 miles an hour, getting there in 16.6 seconds. And the App Store's finest tells me that the quarter mile came up in 14.6 seconds. So, hot hatch performance, job done. What about the handbrake? So as you can see, if you do fit a car with a proper handbrake lever, instead of one of those annoying parking brake switches, you can still do a good old-fashioned handbrake turn. What's it like on a motorway? It's quite firm and a little bit jostly, but it's a small hot hatchback with stiff suspension because it's a yacht. So what do you expect? At least out here while cruising at about 70 miles an hour, it's doing about 45 miles per gallon at the cruise, which sort of makes up for the fact that it gets pretty juicy when you're really thrapping it. Speaking of which, let's see what happens when you go a little bit faster. Settle down in top gear at 115 miles an hour. I mean, of course it's rock steady here, 120, no problem at all, because the N in i20N, well, that partly stands for Nürburgring. It also stands for Namyang, the home of Hyundai in South Korea, but it's the Nürburgring we're all interested in, isn't it? Not just for the lap times, but because it is the cruelest test of how to set up a car. They didn't spend all their time on the corners. They obviously made sure the i20N could hold its own on the straight bits in between as well. High speed, hot hatch test, check. Is it comfy? Oh, I wasn't looking forward to this one because of all the things that you can adjust in the i20N, the revs for your launch control, the loudness of the exhaust, you cannot tweak the suspension stiffness. It's like this all the time. And that means that, well, if you're just not in the mood, well, the i20N doesn't care. It's always a really jostly little so-and-so. If you want a comfortable small hot hatch, I suppose you could go and have a Volkswagen Polo GTI, but come on, you don't look at this thing and go, comfortable. It drives and it rides like it looks. It's angry. What's it like in a corner? Well, if you drive the i20N like your granddad drives his i20, then you're probably going to start to wonder what all the fuss is all about. No. To really get under the skin of this car, you've got to put it in N mode. And then it becomes a bit of an animal. It really does change the character of the car, and what I love is that underneath, this thing is just a pure old school hot hatch. It wants to pick up an inside wheel, it wants to be a bit of a fruitcake, but it's using that technology to make itself more accessible. It doesn't feel kind of overcomplicated. It doesn't feel like the computers are trying to do anything for you. You can obviously turn all this rev match and engine noise nonsense off if you want it fully authentic. And what's underneath? Oh, it's just spot on. The gear shift, delectable. The front diff is so tenacious and there's just so much grip. It's a really different character to the Ford Fiesta ST, which you've really got to mention when you're talking about small hot hatchbacks because, well, it's been the king, hasn't it, for 10 years, and it's still a fantastic car. I absolutely love it. i20N goes about its business slightly differently. I mean, it's more accurate, it's a bit more laser focused. I think you'd probably have this if you were doing more track days because it's the one that you're going to set up to your absolute liking, and then it's just that bit more obedient. It's a bit more grippy underneath you rather than always wanting to act the fool. But don't for a second think that it is boring. This is a proper little firecracker. What's the verdict? I'll tell you what I love about this car. It uses the GPS to sense when you're near a good set of bends, and it actually pops up here on the dashboard right in front of you. It says, S bends ahead. Would you like N mode? It's not a car that's been designed and engineered for lap times or for badge snobs. It's here to have fun. And that's what we need. We need cars that you can have fun in on the road and do so without taking up lots of space, without burning lots of fuel, and without spending too much money. I mean, this thing is 25 grand with the diff and the sports seats and the great looking floor mats and the modes and the wing. There's absolutely everything you'd need on it to have a cracking time in a hot hatch, and it costs bang on what it should do in 2021. And I'll tell you what as well, it's proof that Hyundai, no, they're not a fluke. Gave us the i30N and we thought, maybe that thing, the Golf GTI rival, perhaps it was beginner's luck. Oh, not a bit of it. They've come out with the i20N, and I think it's even better. I'm not sure what they could have done to make this a better car, maybe a slightly fruitier engine. That's my only criticism. I think that this 4-cylinder, it doesn't sound quite as exotic. as the little 3-cylinder in the Fiesta. It's just a good engine. It's a good engine, there we go. Its problem is that it lives in an absolutely fantastic car. This isn't just one of the best hot hatches you can buy right now. This has to be one of the star cars of 2021.